Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. Hey, welcome back to the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve LaRosiliere. Today's guest is Carrie Nelson, who's the owner of Four Chicks Furniture out in Colorado. How you doing, Carrie?
Oh, I'm doing well. Doing a little cold out here, but doing well.
For sure. Happy New Year.
Yes.
Hey, why don't you tell everybody about the origin story? How'd you get started as a business owner and as a woodpreneur, basically?
Sure. I'll kind of try to make it really short. But I grew up south of Chicago, and we had a 200-year-old farmhouse that constantly needed work. So I was my dad's right-hand person, kind of learning all those things along the way, and got married, had children, and I was the one that would do all the woodworking around the house, do the trim, all those things. And unfortunately, I got divorced. And so with the divorce, half of the furniture leaves, and I couldn't afford to buy new furniture. So I started making it, and I'd go to Home Depot and go to the off cast rack and pick up whatever they had there that I could figure out how to make something out of. And kind of just one thing led to another. And a friend of mine suggested that maybe I start doing this for other people. And I said, nobody's going to want to buy my stuff. There's so many little mistakes in it. And she goes, I bet they would. And she asked me to build a dollhouse for her daughter. And she made me charge her for it. So she wouldn't let me do it for free. So she's my first client, and it kind of exploded from there. And now it's I never imagined that we would be where we are right now.
That's fascinating. So you had your background with building stuff with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so this started in Colorado, right?
It did, yeah. It started about 2009, and I was building a piece for inside our entryway. And as I'm building it, I said, wow, if anybody ever wants to buy anything I make, we should just call it Four Chicks Furniture, because that's who we are now. We're just four chicks, because I'm the mom of three daughters. And my ex-husband left and went back to the Midwest, and we stayed in Colorado, and very glad we did.
What was your career before?
I actually have a degree from Purdue University for hotel, restaurant, and institutional management. So I ran school food service for a large contract food service company for about almost 8 years until I started raising my family. And at that time, I took off to raise the kids.
And was it scary to give up? Because, I mean, running school kitchens is probably, as secure as having like a union job, right? Like, was it scary to give that up back then?
I knew at the time, because I had one daughter already and my second daughter was on the way, and there was a good time in our lives as a family to say, you know what, let's focus on raising the children and then eventually go back to work. And as time went by, I knew that I really didn't want to go back into the food service realm. I was running a lot of schools with a lot of employees, and I had to answer to not just didn't answer to myself. I had to answer to the school district and the company that I was working for and the parents. And I always kind of dreamed of would it be great to be my own boss and make my own rules and do it the way I want to do it.
And do you remember what was the path to actually leaving that and then going full time? Like, do you remember the moment where you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, it was interesting because, when my friend asked me to build this little dollhouse for her daughter, the next piece was like a barn type bookcase. And it was one of those things. I was dabbling in some MLM stuff, because you're a stay-at-home mom and you want to be able to stay at home, be your own boss, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And my oldest daughter she'd always really give me a hard time. And she'd say, you're not a business owner if you're doing an MLM thing. You're doing it for someone else. That's not your business. And she said to me one day, she goes, Mom, when you talk about the things that you're building or the designs that you have, you just light up and you're like a different person and you're so excited about it. And at the same time, I had been thinking kind of along those same lines. And so I'm like, well, it's it's all or nothing at this point. And I said, well, we're going to go for it. And I was like, just jumped all in, and for really, really fortunate that I lived in a bit of a smaller community. So word got out that I was doing this, and, friends talk to friends. And, and it's led to us doing corporate jobs 9.5 hours away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. At that point when you first started, was it like, I mean, you have kids at this point, right? Like
But
did you ever feel like giving
I
up?
think there's a lot of times we feel like giving up. I think even now, sometimes we feel like giving up, but you have to, I think I remembered the the true love of it and the creativity that it afforded me to do. And quite honestly, during that time frame, running three kids around to school and after school activities, and all the things that they needed to do, it was something that it was easy for me to set it down for an hour and go run and take care of what they needed and then come back to it. So it wasn't, the schedule was very flexible at that point. Now I keep a very tight schedule because time is money and clients are waiting, and so it looks different now than it did then. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like having a newborn. You grow with the baby and you get better at doing what you're doing as the child grows, and I feel like that's kind of how it's happened with my woodworking and the skills and the tools and equipment that I have, and it's all just kind of grown up with me.
What was the original vision once you decided, like, all right, this is what I'm going to do? Like, what was the vision back then, and how far are you off from it now?
The vision back then really was to build pieces of furniture that were going to be really solid, and it was mainly at that point it was furniture, maybe some mudrooms, but mostly furniture pieces. So the idea was to build something that a family could enjoy and love for forever. Basically, it would be a piece that would stand the test of time, that they could pass down to their next generation, and kind of along those lines. And pretty early on, we actually were asked to do a small corporate job for a building in the Denver metro area. And when that happened, I think it changed my mindset as to what this could become, that it could be much greater than what I had originally envisioned. And that's really where it is now. I mean, we do half of our business is cabinets. But I still love to get into the furniture aspect of it because of the creativity, and um,
Yeah,
and we still bring the creativity into the cabinet area as well. But as you know, they're two different beasts, and um,
sure.
both are extremely fun to do. And I like the fact that we can break up a bunch of cabinet jobs with some furniture in between. I
Yeah.
think that's fun.
I feel like that's a good model, right? You could charge high enough for the cabinets, and that keeps you and your tools and your team busy, and then get creative with the furniture.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
how at what point did you start adding employees?
It was pretty. I'm trying to think of when my first employee came with me. I started all this out of my three-car garage. And she
Wow.
actually was another mom who had two kids and was looking just to fill some time during the day when the kids were at school. And she really liked the idea of the flexibility of it. And she had kind of grown up with on the mechanical side with her dad. But so
Mm-hmm.
she, again, like a hands-on type experience. And I think that was probably about 3 years into doing my work.
Mm-hmm.
So she was my first person that I had on, and this past week we had five of us in the shop. So
Wow.
yeah, I work on a part time basis with my employees,
Mm-hmm.
so that to give people the opportunity to do the things in their lives that they need to do, and somehow things happen to usually all fall into place where one person can't be there. I've got someone else who is. But I'm about to the point where I think I need a full-time person to be in the shop on a daily basis.
So you work full time and then you have like a bunch of part times that help fulfill on different
Yes,
jobs. And then
exactly.
and you build it into the schedule so that they can come without the stress of, paying the full time,
Right.
and you build it into the timeline that clients know. And then you fill in the rest, right?
Right, exactly. But I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
keep
yeah.
it's essentially the same as having, two full-time people in the shop at all times,
Yeah.
which is really where we are at this point. There are things that I can have one person work on, but if you can get two people in there, there's quite a bit more than you can do. And I'm pretty good at pivoting. So if we have
Yeah.
something where, all of a sudden we need three people to do something and we don't have three people, then I could say, okay, what else on this project or what else on this other project can we switch to so that we can continue to be productive and move forward to those due dates for deliveries.
I got the sense that you're a pretty organized person. Is that accurate to say?
Um, Probably too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there really has to be a lot of organization in doing this. I
Yeah.
mean, just if you just think about a cabinet job, there's all of the hardware that you need, and I don't keep inventory because my shop is not huge. I mean, it's large compared to a lot of people's shops, but we don't keep any inventory of anything. So there's always the ordering, and we order out our doors, and we have
Hmm.
been ordering out our drawers. So you just have to get those done first so that by the time your cabinets are finished, those things are there and they're ready to go in. So you have to kind of think through the process of what all are you going to need to get to your endpoint efficiently. I hate wasting time.
And so the idea is that like you outsource, so you have this sort of flexible team, you manage the clients and the schedule, you fill in, they
Hmm.
know where they're going, you know how long each thing is going to get set, how long each task is going to take because you've basically standardized everything, right? Like your kitchen builds, and maybe there's some things around the custom furniture.
Right.
You essentially know what you're doing, uh and then you manage all of those things. So it kind of seems like you got it figured out.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I haven't figured out.
Yeah.
I'm on the way to having it figured out. I
Yeah,
think I'm also a firm believer of continuous improvement.
sure.
And if we don't call things mistakes, we call them opportunities
Yeah.
because it's a learning curve. And we're working on a really big project right now, and boy, we've learned quite a few things with this project that and that goes with you forever, and you can pass that on to other people or your employees or other people in the industry that you meet. And
Yeah. What percentage of your time are you building versus managing, marketing, accounting, all of the other things in your business?
right now it's really more on the managing of the projects, because we've had
Hmm.
some really large projects right now that are time dependent. And so it's kind of like the accounting and the ordering and things like that kind of slip in wherever I get an opportunity to do that. Whether it be right before I go to bed at night, or if I take an hour on a Saturday morning and try to catch the accounting up. I'm horrible at keeping the accounting up to date. I need an accountant.
No, I understand. It's hard. The project management part of any business is really the hardest part, and it's almost like you need a, a project manager,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
On a team, especially when you're manufacturing a product, right? Because
Hmm.
I mean, when you think about like where you'd like to be, where would you like to be in the future? Like, is like what's the long-term vision? I mean, you've been around since 2009. That's that's quite a bit. Like where do you want to
I
be?
think, and that's not really a hard question for me, because I have a hard time defining that. I don't want to get so big that I'm not able to be in the shop doing work, because I
Yeah.
really love to do that. Um,
Hmm.
and it's such a fun learning experience for myself. And then I love to be able to teach people. So I think in the future, if it would work out this way, I think I would like to be able to bring in some more entrepreneurs like myself who are starting out, and maybe, do some classes with them or just be there as a sounding board. But also, keep the business growing to where I always say, like, I don't want to be rich. I just want to be able
Yeah.
to pay the bills and enjoy what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
so as long as I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, I don't necessarily feel like we need to have this grand vision of moving into a 10,000 square foot shop and doing everything that 5 shops would do. I love the idea of the small shop. I think it keeps it more personal, and I
Yeah.
think that's what the clients, at least right now, I think that's what they want. They want a personal experience, and so I want to make sure I keep that for them.
They want to know that the person that they're talking to and paying has their hands on their product.
Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay,
I mean,
let me ask you that you mentioned something. He's like, I don't want to be rich.
right.
Um, I kind of find this as like as a um not to say that it is like a common thing in the wood industry, but what does rich being mean to you?
I don't. I think it's having way more than what you need.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
want, I don't want to end up like that. I'd like to be able to afford to take a vacation, which would be
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
Um, you know, and my thought process is always, if I don't need it personally, if I don't need, like, if I get $10 from a client, I don't personally need it to pay myself because I'm doing okay. I'll put that $10 back into the business,
sure, sure.
upgrading your equipment or, things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Because I've been a big advocate for like people growing their businesses and not having to be the only person touching all of the equipment or
Hmm.
touching the pieces that go out. Um, and it's almost like there's like a little bit of like a push pull of
Hmm.
like. So I mean, wait. Well, I like the growth beyond the garage, right? Like
Yeah.
in many ways, there's like this internal mantra that I have is like think beyond the garage,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. Right.
Um, and then I like the phrase that you're at. I know my biggest thing is like with the wood industry is like if you take a vacation, you're not making money,
Exactly. Exactly.
and that's a problem for me. And then like
Hmm.
God forbid, knock on wood, and I'm not saying it's you, but like God forbid, knock on wood, you get hurt,
Hmm.
right? And many folks don't even have disability or like
Right.
any kind of other insurance, and like
Right.
and then they're the sole provider of their family or
Right.
whatever. So that's the kind of always thing to me. I was like, so why not be rich? I mean, or
Yep.
not rich, like not like Jeff Bezos rich, but like
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
you can afford to take some time off. You can
Sure.
afford to take a vacation, right?
Right.
I
And to
don't know.
to your point about getting hurt, I actually got hurt last year.
You
Not,
did.
yeah, not with my woodworking business, but I was building a house, and
Okay.
at the same time as working, and I had an accident with my tractor, and I ended up destroying my left ankle. At the beginning
Is
of
it healed
November.
now?
Yeah, pretty much healed. I mean, I'm walking around and it's still stiff, and I know that it's there.
Yeah.
But during that time frame, there was that sheer terror of, oh my gosh, how are
Yeah.
we going to get all this work done? Because we were in the middle of a remodel for another house for a client.
Yeah.
And that was where my organizational skills, I think, really had to step up, because
Yeah.
it was like,
Get
okay,
organized, right?
yeah, who could I call in? Who can do what? And I was, after surgery, I had surgery like right around Thanksgiving time. So thankfully that gave us a little bit of a break. And I went back right the Monday after Thanksgiving, in a
This
wheelchair.
is 2022 or 2023?
This would have been November of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went back to work in a wheelchair, and I didn't walk until February of 2023, and still
Whoa.
kept getting work done.
Because you had to.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Whoa, that's a big lesson that you not just a lesson, but that was man, Carrie, you went through it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. In the middle of building a house too. So it's like, I'm like, wait, how much more can I carry right now? But,
Yeah.
we got through it, and I had other friends in the industry who stepped up and helped me get a few things done on the house,
Mm-hmm.
and called in other woodworkers that I know and said, hey, if you got any time, I got work for you. I can pay you. Be
Yeah.
here at this time, and let's go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One time, I my last business, my wife was pregnant. She gave birth, and like 2 days before my second child got birth, my first child broke his leg, and
Oh,
I had to like, so it was like all this emotion and stuff, and really, when you go through something like that, um, in hindsight, you're like, man, that was terrible.
mhm,
Uh, but if you can look at anyway, the first point that I wanted to make was it really makes you focus on what's important.
exactly.
And then the second thing is if you can kind of look back, like I'm reading this book now, it's called The Gap and the Gain.
Mm,
And oftentimes it's by this guy named Dan Sullivan. I highly recommend all of his books. I'll tell you all
okay.
of the names. Um, and so The Gap and the Gain talks about how when we're unhappy with the results that we have, we're always looking at the gap, right? As
Mhm.
opposed to, because it's based off of an ideal of what you thought should happen. So you're
Okay.
measuring the results against that instead of measuring the results based off of what actually happened and the gain that you learn from it. And so, what was that, if you were to look back on that, like what was the gain from that experience?
I think the gain was a lot of being able to teach someone how to do something that you would normally do
Mm-hmm.
and resist, and which I actually couldn't, jumping in and just doing it. When you have a timeline, sometimes it's like, well, I could just get X, Y, and Z finished before anybody else gets here to work because that's the harder stuff. And I know that I could get that done and crank it on, then we could do something else. So it really was teaching me a lot of patience
Yeah,
and and really learning how to teach how to teach people how to do things, and everybody learns in different ways. And
yeah.
so it was getting to know the people that I was working with, and all right,
Hmm.
how do you work best, and how can I instruct you to do this thing that I would normally do. And everybody stepped up and they did an amazing job.
That's
And I
great
think it was a lesson for myself to say that I don't have to be right there hovering. um,
for sure.
I can give direction, and we can have a discussion, and I know better what questions to ask them to find out, to make sure that they're understanding what has to happen, and then they can go off and they can fly and learn new things and give me ideas.
So I love that. So because I almost feel like part of being a business owner is giving people opportunities to grow and
Mhm.
learn. And it's almost like as the business owner, it's kind of selfish to keep everything to yourself. Like you kind of have to
Definitely.
you birth this idea in your head and it's creating a platform for people to eat and provide for their own family.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's almost on us to uh it's on us to be able to give, because if they're spending that much time with you, that they have to they should learn and be better from their
Right.
time, if they're not, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, do you
Yeah,
agree with that?
I do agree with that. And I think some of the people that I've worked with, I think, they've been fairly satisfied with kind of what they had been doing. But when you give them the opportunity to do a little bit more, and then they see that they are successful at doing that, it's really just such a great feeling to see them. I had just last week. In fact, I had an example of this that we're working on as a project in Kansas, and we were putting up a tongue and groove hickory wall, with floating shelf brackets in between, and we left the last course off on the bottom because the counters had to come in. And so I had one helper with me, and so she'd be cutting everything and hand it to me, and I'd get it in there, And the way things ended up working out that day, I had to do some other stuff to get finished so that we could come back to Colorado and get some more work done. And I said, okay, you get to do it. And she did both sides all on her own. And I was so happy for her. I'm like, gosh, you did a great job. Thank you for taking that on. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it because I got this done. And look at how great it turned out. I said, do you feel good about yourself? She goes, oh my gosh, it was great. And I just love to be able to give people that opportunity.
That's great. That's so cool. Yeah, it is awesome when you see people break their own little milestones in life when they've been able to achieve something, and it's almost like they're like your I don't want to say they're like your child, and you see them
Yeah.
achieve something that they've never done before.
Yeah.
How do you, or how do you normally get clients to come to you?
I have been extremely fortunate and blessed that a lot of my work is word of mouth.
Okay.
And I have probably a good handful of clients that are repeat clients.
Yeah.
And when they're repeat clients, then they really talk about what you've done because they obviously had faith that I could do it multiple times. I do have my website, and I post to social media, but I don't go out and pay for marketing. So
Okay.
we seem to be keeping busy.
Yeah.
Um, it, but the books have been filled since I started. I mean, there really hasn't been a time when we've not had a project, which is
Wow.
incredible. But with the economy the way it looks right now, I'm
I mean,
hesitant to say that that's going to continue. So I can't be lackadaisical and just think that everything's going to stay the way it's been going.
well, you know what? Honestly, I've talked to a lot of people where you are. Like Colorado is like its own little economy.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? Like I almost
Mm-hmm.
feel like Colorado's its own little beast of like of just growth, and
Yeah,
so and you're in Denver, outside Denver, right?
I'm outside of Denver in the foothills, actually.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's I mean, but the fact that you've only relied on word of mouth, and you've been busy, that's like an amazing blessing, and that speaks
Mm-hmm.
volumes to the quality of work that you do, and probably the fact that like people get to know and talk to you,
Yeah, and
right?
I really enjoy most client interactions. I mean, sometimes you have clients that are harder to deal with, but you always learn something from that. But I have
I think
clients now that are friends.
I think the trades gets like craftsmen get like a bad rap because I don't know, people, I almost feel like craftsmen get so caught up in their vision that they don't want to necessarily follow through on what the client wants. People
Hmm.
want what they want to put out there as opposed to, and you seem like a pretty customer centric type person.
Absolutely. And that was really where the business model, part of what the business model was originally and still is actually, is that give me, if they say I want a table, and I'll say send me all the pictures of things that you love about different tables, and we can put them all together and make a table that you love. But also send me some pictures of stuff you absolutely hate. And from there then we can develop a vision together, that's going to meet what they want. Because quite honestly, when a client goes to a carpenter or a woodworker like myself to have something built, it's because they couldn't find what they wanted locally or order it in, and or they need something custom because of their space, etc. But they're and if they're going to pay me that much money to do something, they better get what they want and not what
Yeah,
I want.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And I'm assuming your clients are pretty high end type folks.
They are at this point, yes. And it's
Yeah,
been it's been evolving. When I started out in a 3-car garage. Now I have a 2,700 square foot shop. And so now you have the overhead of that. And
yeah,
so you have to make sure that you're doing projects where you can make a return.
for sure. Any goals for this coming year?
Well, we purchased a CNC machine
What
last
kind?
year.
What
I'm
kind?
sorry.
What
Oh, I
kind?
got a BSC Rover K.
Okay.
And
How'd you
at the
how'd you
advice,
pick how'd you pick the CNC? I'm curious.
Yeah, I've been looking at CNC machines for probably 6, 7, 8 years, and just dreaming about the day when I'd be able to afford to buy one.
Yeah.
Um, and just talked with a lot of people, and I know some of the vendors, some of the sales reps with different vendors, and so I just said, okay, let's tell me what you have, show me what you have, what are its capabilities, how is it different from this? And I'm fortunate that I have one of my equipment representatives who's out here used to work for another equipment company, so he knew both two of the machines that I was comparing, which is good. So I really rely on what my salespeople have to say and answers to the questions, and then getting on the internet, doing your research, and seeing who's
Hmm.
using what out there. And I've been working with another cabinet company who's actually they've been CNC cutting my cabinets for a year and a half, and I know what kind of machine they have, and we've talked about that, and so I've had some experience with them doing it, and so that's kind of how we kind of ended up with the BSC machine. So
Mm.
the goal is to I need to get trained on it first before they can do the official installation of it.
Yeah.
So hoping in February that we have that done. And what I'd like to start doing this year is being able to cut cabinets for other people in the area.
That's cool.
Because yeah, if you have other woodworkers, it made so much sense for us to start doing that because you eliminate a lot of error in you know panel saw cutting.
And
You
the
know,
and the crazy big table saw trying to
yeah.
cut boxes out of a yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's really been a game changer for us, and I would like to be able to provide that for other smaller people who can't either don't have room or can't afford to have a machine.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then,
Did you finance? Have you ever taken out loans or did you just self-fund everything ever?
this is the first thing I have financed. Everything
Hmm.
else I've done to this point has been cash.
Yeah.
So it's a little scary jumping into that.
Yeah. And it's a commitment.
It is. It is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
commitment,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And I always say you have to be really smart about your equipment purchases, especially when they're large purchases.
For
And
sure.
I'm looking at buying an edge bander next, but that'll be a cash purchase.
Or you could look online and see if there's any for sale that are used.
Well, I
Because
do do that.
there's a lot of cabinet shops going out of business. I don't know if you know
Yes,
that, but
yes,
um,
yes. And
um,
I keep up with all the auctions.
yeah, for sure, for
Hmm.
sure. Um, okay, so this is the part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there any challenges that you want to think through or talk through or get some extra advice on?
Well, I think it goes back to what I touched on earlier with the change in the economy. And, if you have someone like myself who's not had to do a lot of marketing in the past and all of
Yeah,
a sudden finds themselves in the need of doing marketing,
yeah,
how do you transition to doing that? And where is my time best spent?
for sure, for sure. So I'm talking to you for the last 30 minutes. I just get the sense that you're a good friend. Is that right?
Yeah, I try to be.
You can probably keep relationships, like you can stay on top of relationships because relationships are important to you,
Mhm,
right? Like
mhm.
not
Yes,
just for like business, but for just for like the quality of your life. Like you've
right.
probably been through a lot in your life and there were certain relationships that were pretty pivotal to you, right? In
Absolutely.
helping you
Absolutely.
get through it. I also just saw that that you lost a friend last year, James,
I did.
online.
I did. I did.
So you and with your injury, I'm assuming that like you know how fragile life is.
Yes.
Um, so with that said, so like I kind of don't like to give like blanket advice, and so I'm like
Okay.
gonna customize this for you, right?
Sure. Okay.
I think you need to stay in touch with every single one of your customers
Okay.
on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like friend them on Facebook, friend them on Twitter, or not
Right.
Twitter, on Instagram. Just
Yes.
like literally stay on top of them, right? And
Okay.
so that was the first thing. The second thing is I think you really need to lean into the Four Chicks brand. I just like, are your daughters still around in the business or no?
Each one of them has helped in the business, and my oldest
Okay.
daughter has done some of my social media. So I always tell everyone, if it's good social media, she did it. If it's bad, I did it. But they're
Sure,
all
sure,
still in
sure.
the area.
Okay. I don't know what happened to your video. Your video's
Oh, I'm still
off.
here. Can you? I'm. I can still see you. I'm not sure what's going on. Let's see.
Okay. Well, okay. Oh, there it is. So look, here's what I would do, honestly. So yeah, what MLM did you do?
I
Do
was
you
doing some
remember?
skincare.
Which
Oh, yeah, some skincare stuff. I won't get into it. Those are
Sure,
embarrassing
sure, sure,
times for
sure,
me.
sure. So that same energy of building a community around yourself
Mhm.
is going to be really, really, really important. And so I think that your time is best spent with your top clients
Okay.
and getting them and building a program around where you are integral to your life and they are integral
Okay.
to your life.
Okay. Yeah.
And they are a constant source of referrals for you.
Hmm.
The other thing too is, I mean, Carrie, you're pretty inspiring, right? And like I have a
Thank you.
mentor that says it's not what you have, it's how you use it, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so the fact that you're a woman designer, furniture maker in this space, like you should be eating everybody's lunch. and 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 the fact, I mean, and some of my male listeners probably won't like that, but I'm just telling you that like you should literally be leaning into woman owned entrepreneurs. You should be speaking to other entrepreneurs. You need to be on stage. You need to be putting your thoughts and opinions out there. I want to
Okay.
see your designs out there. I want to see you. I want
Hmm.
to see an image of you leading your team. I want to see you like, with the CNC, add a table saw, send. Like, I want to see all of that. So,
Okay.
like, so the first thing is, is you need to like really hone in on your audience and your
Okay.
customer and
Hmm.
build a system where you're at the center of it. The second thing is you have to build your personal brand, right?
Right.
And this is like, it's literally, have your daughter come in and just say, come in and take some photos of me while I'm working, photos
Hmm.
and videos of me while I'm working.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see like the head of Four Chicks Furniture, like working, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
building and crafting, right? It's the second thing. And then the third thing is you take all of that content and media and just literally put like $10 a day, $15 a day
Okay.
on Facebook ads and then remarket all of your testimonials. So like
Okay.
part of the challenge with having your being in part of the thing of like being in touch with all of your customers is that you want to market all of your reviews.
Okay.
Reviews,
Yeah.
reviews, reviews.
Hmm.
And so we live in a world now where you can't be lazy about marketing. And you
Definitely.
can't be lazy about only relying on word of mouth. If it's working for you, you actually got to build a system around that.
Okay.
Because if you're busy now, and there are people that at one point only relied on word of mouth, super busy all the time, and now they're out of business. Why?
Right.
Because they didn't put the infrastructure and the system in place in order for that to happen. And
Sure.
so for me, I'm like, don't take that for granted. Literally build up backup and redundancies and an email list. And whether it is like, you know what I mean? Just hire some high school kids to make cutting boards from scraps,
Right.
and that's your little mentorship program for other young girls to be in
Hmm.
the trades. And
Hmm.
that's something that you're doing. right? Like
Right.
you're like, like you created Four Chicks for a reason. Like
Right.
depending on what happened with your life, like you made decisions to stay in Colorado for a
Hmm.
reason, to raise
Right.
your daughters there, to build your business there, to leave the comfort of a stable, cafeteria company career. Like, and
Right.
so for me, I'm like, dude, you gotta lean into that. And
Okay.
life, like, life is super short, and you
Right.
have to like squeeze every little bit out of it. Oh, and
Hmm.
by the way, you're in a
Yeah.
really hot market to do it.
I'm very thankful that this is where the business is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, is that helpful to hear?
It is. Yes, it's very helpful. Very helpful. I appreciate
I
that.
think honestly, you need to look at yourself like, and this is the reason why I brought this up before. You're like, I I was like, you were like, I don't want to be rich, but for me, I think you need to be rich with your personality and
Hmm.
rich with your brand and your message and your voice. And if you just put yourself out there, you could probably maintain the same level, but wouldn't it be nice to charge 20 to 30% more because you're too busy? Because you're
Yeah.
too busy.
Yeah.
Because you're too busy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
As
Yeah.
as opposed to just like relying on like I just read this book. It's called It's Not a T-shirt, and it's
Okay.
by this guy named Bobby Hundreds, and he created a streetwear company. It's like a clothing company.
Uh-huh.
And he sold retail, but he had his own store, which was 400 square feet, that was producing millions of dollars a year. It's because he was able to build a community around his brand. And
Hmm.
this is the point that I was trying to get to before. I don't know if it came out clearly. You
Okay.
need to build a community around yourself. And what I'm asking you to do is to truly lean into who you naturally are. I don't
Hmm.
want you to be anybody else. I want you to be yourself, but
Right.
with a purpose and intention, and keep all of the important people and customers around you.
Okay.
And you
Yeah.
can use media, like literally tell your daughters, hey, come in. You come in and just
Yeah.
start filming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thankfully I have a new person working with me. And she was actually the one who was with me on the job in Kansas. And she sent me over 100 pictures of stuff that she was taking while we were working on that job. So
That's
those are
great.
some things that we're going to be putting out on social media in the next week or so. And we've got 2 more trips to Kansas to finish out this job. So there's a lot more to do.
Cool. All right. Um, was that helpful to hear?
Very helpful. I really appreciate that. I really do.
Cool. Awesome.
And it's
Hey,
uplifting too.
yeah, no, I mean, listen, I have to call things out as I see them. Like, you're an inspiring person. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. Is at least with this podcast, I'm trying not to like. I really want to paint a picture of what's possible, and
Right.
at the same time, I want to show people that there's a bigger world out there,
Hmm.
right? Like for me, I'm like, yeah, I think there is a world for multi-million dollar companies, wood companies, that people are happy, successful, and providing jobs to folks.
Hmm.
Um, and um, and so for me, I'm like, yeah, let's tell stories and let's uplift people and let's like
Yeah.
celebrate, because here's the thing is if IKEA and West Elm and Crate and Barrel can sell a gajillion dollars worth of wood products, and you
Right.
can slice away at 0.001% of that, that's still a seven-figure business for you.
Definitely. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So cool. I really enjoyed talking to you, Carrie.
Thank you. I enjoyed it immensely, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Cool. Is this your first podcast interview?
It is. Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's try to make sure that maybe make it this year the goal to for you to get more press, because I think people need more leaders, and you're a leader. I want to also just acknowledge the fact that you have been around since 2009.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. Like I can't.
You know
Sometimes
what I mean, right? Like,
it's hard to put my head around it.
I just posted this yesterday on my I think, or yesterday or today, but it was basically like, I'm almost feel like part of my mission is to help people that have so much talent and have endured so much to make sure that they get their shine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
do. I do. And I think that's a great goal. It really is. I don't think there's enough of that around. I think there's a lot more people competition and animosity, and we don't need that.
we don't need, yeah, I mean, the competition, the fixed mindset, the lack of ability to see that there's more than enough opportunities out there for everybody to thrive. So cool. All right, tell everybody
Awesome.
what's your website and your social media and your
Uh,
Instagram.
yep. So it's pretty simple. It's Four Chicks Furniture. It's always the number four. Don't spell it
Yep.
out. So fourchicksfurniture.com is our website. Social media, all of it is Four Chicks Furniture. So if you just go look all that up, we're on Instagram and Facebook are the two big ones that we do, and just the website. So it's
Cool.
easy
Cool.
enough to find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. I look forward to getting your story out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Steve, and it was great to meet you on the telephone.
On the yeah. All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care. All right. Bye bye.